Following a reminder, just to follow a reminder to meeting attendees that this is a formal meeting, I can advise that members of the public will be given an opportunity to speak during the public open session, but not at other times. The meeting is being filmed, and by being present, attendees are deemed to have agreed to be filmed and to the use of those images and sound recordings. I can advise that attendees should not disclose any personal information of individuals, as this will infringe the data protection rights of that individual. May I please ask everyone to mute their microphones when not speaking? Thank you. Okay, let's get started. Apologies for absence. I've got Councillor Inessa Agnew, Councillor Pierre Gilsher, and Councillor Sarju Patel. Are there any more that anyone is aware of? Nope. Okay, great. Thank you very much. Okay, item number 2, declarations of interest. No, okay, no declarations of interest. Number 3, chairman's announcements. I don't think I got anything specific to say other than that we are obviously looking at some of the events already in you know, for the next sort of 12 months or so. We do already have, yeah, it's on, yeah. We do already have the Remembrance Sunday in the diary, which is the 12th of November. So a date for your diaries. I suspect an invite will come out in due course, but the 12th of November is the sort of ceremonial, historical Remembrance Sunday date. So just to bear that in mind for colleagues. We'll obviously come on to that later, but no date was actually listed at this stage, but that's when it will be. Okay, public open session. I assume no one has any questions on chairman's announcements. I've just skipped over, but okay. Public open session. Does our member of the public wish to say anything at the moment? No. Is there anyone online, Funder? No. Okay. Thank you. Moving on. Okay. Number 5, members' questions, please. Any questions? Councillor North.
Thank you, Chairman. Now we have a magnificent new transport interchange. Are we going to see it actually put into use by having buses starting and finishing there with new routes in the town centre? Does anybody know anything about that?
I think that's a very good question, Councillor North. I'm aware there are already presently 2 bus companies, of course, that use that have bus services in Biggleswade, Grant Palmer and Herbert's, I think it is, but I don't know whether there are any discussions at central beds level over expanding that. I'm not quite sure. My only thought is we could ask officers to look into that in terms of the public transport team in central beds. But Karim, have you got any suggestions?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Just one to say that we have a meeting with an officer meeting with CBC senior leadership team next. I think it's next week, next Wednesday, and this is definitely on the agenda, both the interchange and bus routes anyway. So we'll be raising it then and get some more information.
Thank you. That's very helpful. If you could sort of feedback at an appropriate opportunity, whether that's a council meeting or a TCM meeting, that would be great. So I think, speaking for colleagues, we've talked about this before. I think we are keen to see more and better bus routes in town and the connectivity and so on. So thank you. Okay, number 6, on to minutes and the recommendation of the meeting. So if we can just do the minutes for accuracy first, and Councillor Knight may want to help me on this because he was chairing the meeting, I think, at the last time. But so we'll go from there. Okay, page number 6. Okay, page number 7. So this is just for accuracy at the moment. Sorry, page number 7. Nope. Page number 8. Nope. Page number 9. Yeah. Sorry, Councillor Alban.
Yeah, it's just a very small point. The second paragraph down, suitable noise meter is spelt differently to that.
Sorry, where yes, as in it's meter as in distance rather than as in measurement, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, I'm sure we can get that corrected. Okay. Okay, to page 9. Page 10. Nope. Page 11. Okay, no, right. Okay, so going back through for recommendations. Let's have a look. Page 6. Nope. Page 7. Councillor Alban.
Yeah, in matters arising item 8, a matter that you raised yourself. So it's whether officers have been successful with investigating the official ownership of the War Memorial and Victorian water fountain. So yeah, it was still under investigation at this point, at the point of this meeting. But I wondered if there's any more information on that.
Yeah, that's a good question. I was going to ask the very same one myself, but you beat me to it, but thank you. Okay, Karim. Yeah.
So thanks, Mr. Chairman. So very good question. I think we'll definitely have an update for Monday's Capital Asset Group meeting in terms of ownership. I don't recall off the top of my head right now what has been resolved with that, but we have had a result. So apologies, I can't actually recall the detail of it, I'm afraid, at this point.
Okay, thank you. But at least it's on the agenda. I think that's the main thing. Thank you for that, Councillor Albone. Okay. Okay, so page 7, page 8. Nope. Page 9. Yeah.
So the item 9A Market Square vision update. So the second paragraph, head of governance and strategic partnerships, I can say that, responded to say that BTC officers would be attending a meeting with CBC in June. I realise it's still June, but I wonder if that meeting has taken place yet.
Go ahead. Yep.
Thank you. No, although it's being subsumed, because this topic of Market Square is going to be on the agenda as well for that meeting I referred to earlier, which is in late June with CBC's senior leadership team.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. So it's essentially a much bigger officer to officer meeting at the end of the month. Okay, great. Okay, all right. Page 8. Okay, page 9, page 10, and page 11. Okay, good. Thank you very much. I think they're an accurate record now. Okie doke. Okay, so we've done item 6 and item 7. Hang on. Oh yeah, so the minutes of the council meeting on 7A. Should that be town centre management meeting? Yes. Okay, but we've kind of done that already, haven't we? With the matters arising. So okay, I've just noted the error. We can get that corrected to town centre management. Okay, rather than council meeting. Okay, number 8, A, the big eats items for consideration. If I can go over to you, Isaac, if you just want to say a few words, and then we can, I'll take some comments and questions from colleagues.
Yeah, thanks, Chairman. So on the 26th of July, the consultation period finishes for the trademark application. So hopefully we'll get a good result and that will come through. I had a very productive meeting this morning with the third-party organiser that I referenced in the report, as well as a Biggleswade Town Centre business owner that will partner up with this third-party organiser. They're both very keen, very passionate about running a good series of events in Biggleswade, having had experience in running similar events in neighbouring towns successfully. They've already pulled together roughly 12 traders provisionally for the date set out in the report. These are a handful of Biggleswade Town Centre businesses, and then the remainder are well-established local traders that frequently attend similar events in neighbouring towns. So it consists of, there'd be one bar, and this would be run by a Biggleswade Town Centre business, 2 dessert traders, and then the rest would be a variety of cuisines of hot food. Obviously, this is the report sets out. This is only a sort of one-off pilot event for September at the moment, but if successful, the intention would obviously be to roll this out bi-monthly on a Thursday, as resolved at TCM back in February. That's it from me. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much, Isaac. Any questions before? I've got some, but I'll let other colleagues speak first. So, Councillor Albone.
Thank you. Yeah, I've got a question on the first page. So in the first bullet point in the summary section, it talks about the issue with the electrical infrastructure of the Market Square, which sounds quite alarming. So is there anything that we can do to improve the situation, or is it purely CBC responsibility?
Yeah, Karim, do you want to take that one, or Isaac? Yeah, Isaac, if you could take that one then. Yeah.
The last that this I spoke to CBC about this was with the senior assets manager. They explained that because the Market Square electricity infrastructure is used for events that the town council runs, it's our responsibility to make it fit for purpose. I had a meeting with an electrician on the square, and they referred back to a sort of update report that they'd sent officers previously, setting out which points to use. The intention would be for the big eats that I liaise with the electrician and the organizer to make sure that they are clear on the points that are still safe to use and what the limits are in terms of amperage. But that's it.
Yeah, go on. Yeah,
I'm just concerned that the infrastructure is deteriorating, and there might be something that we need to do to bring it up to spec.
yeah, okay. I hear your point, Councillor. I'm going to take a couple of others, and then I'll come back with some further thoughts. Councillor Foster.
My thoughts are exactly the same, and I don't want to labour the point. I think we just need to resolve that one way or the other. If it means that the council has to fork out the money to begin with, and we claim it, but we need to resolve it. We can't have a situation where we're concerned about a safety element and we're trying to, there's an issue around it. I think we just need to resolve it one way or the other. And I'd like that to be quite clear. I think we need to do that.
Yeah, okay. Karim.
Sorry, just to jump in there, but thank you. But just to say that, again, this will be, because Market Square is on the agenda for the meeting with CBC officers, we'll be raising this as well. I mean, it should be noted as well, I think, that in pushing quite hard with the capital assets team in the past about this, they have noted that, as Isaac said, that the liability is on the users as such, but they also pointed out there was no agreement in place, as in they couldn't locate one either for that. So,
okay. I mean, just speaking from the chair for a second, I mean, I think what concerns me is okay, we're talking about this specific event at the moment, but clearly if there's ongoing issues in relation to the market and other events and things, and we, as Councillor Foster says, we need to resolve it pretty quickly and get it sorted. We don't want a health and safety, issue or worse on our hands and things. So that does need to be addressed pretty sharpish as a standalone issue if that's what's causing such a sticking point, I think. Councillor Strong.
I'm afraid I'm just going to go on a bit about this particular point on the electricity. It is not acceptable. Central Beds Council tell us they own the Market Square. It is therefore their responsibility, and they should be. It's a capital issue rather than a revenue type issue in that respect. They should be sorting this out. I've got absolutely no doubt about that. If we have to do it, we should contracharge them and make sure we get the money back from them. Whether it's something Section 106 money or something like that might finance is another matter, but this is not acceptable that we're in this situation. There are other events on the Market Square which we're going to be talking about tonight. We cannot have the situation where this electrics are unsafe. They're responsible for this, not this town council. And perhaps that could be raised at a member level as well. We might have an opportunity for some of us tomorrow night to actually raise it, but also the officers must raise that in the meeting next week.
Okay, Karim, I think has got that loud and clear. Good. Okay, Councillor Knight.
Sorry, there's no easy way to say this. I think this is appalling. So this was first raised in Finance and General Purpose in July 2022. It's now June 2023. So 11 months has passed. There was a fairly clear resolution at F&GP that basically said use reserves unless we can get Central Beds to pay to fix it. So 11 months has passed. And there's a report in front of me saying it's potentially unsafe. And it's basically stalemate between offices at two councils. This is simply unacceptable. So what I would like to see is an urgent report to all members in the next week stating how this will be addressed. Because I don't want anyone, any trader or a member of the public to be injured as a result of either council being negligent. And when language like this is in a report and it's been outstanding for 11 months, I don't see how we're not negligent.
Okay, I'll go to Councillor Strawn, then I'll get a response back from the Head of Governance. Go on, Councillor Strawn.
Yes, whose insurance is responsible for this? Because that's another issue here, because if there's a defect and somebody does get hurt, which we touching wood will not happen, but there's going to be an insurance aspect this and a big claim against somebody. 11 months, as Councillor Knight points out, leaves somebody exposed, possibly us.
Okay. So would you like to make a proposal then, Councillor Knight, in that regard, and we can vote on it? Or
if I may, I mean, the other point is that the discussion at FGP said it was urgent that it was resolved before Christmas. So I guess the direct question was any remedial action taken before Christmas? Because that was the topic of the discussion at FGP.
All right. Okay. Karim, do you want to answer those, please?
Yes, thanks. I can confirm that we did get urgent remedial action of not a lasting nature, but of an improvement nature from our electrical supplier, so that we could then continue with that. Obviously, the Christmas event, and actually the Christmas event is technically speaking, I think, the event that's the business, not just the business in terms of football, but in terms of power consumption as well, due to the catering loads. That said, since then there's been some degradation, but we've also mapped the various infrastructure as it is and the condition and all the points that are required via that same supplier, so that we can still run a event going forward, like Big Eats, for example, using specific points in that infrastructure, albeit somewhat limited, further limited and reduced, if you like.
Okay, thank you. I think then, just speaking from a chair, I think reinforcing Councillor Knight's point, I think what would be very helpful then in the next 7 days is an update with some of this encapsulated, so all members are aware, not just TCM, all members of the council are aware of where we are in terms of the electrical safety issue in the Market Square. That can then obviously inform your discussion with CBC officers next week and so on. Because if it is such a big problem in terms of, unsafe and fuses blowing and all the rest of it, as others have pointed out, there is a huge liability issue there, and it's something all councils need to be aware of, not just TCM. So I think a report in the next seven days would be the right thing to do, so everyone feels informed. Councillor Foster.
If I might then go on to the other matter, the key item in the report.
Yeah.
So Isaac has explained in the report that with officers have investigated options to run an event, but the recommendation is that we engage a third party, and we've arranged that. So I guess my concern is that the council resolved that we were going to run it ourselves. My understanding, at least from the report, was that we hadn't agreed with Street Food Heroes. So perhaps I've misunderstood that we were looking to arrange to run these events ourselves without a third party company. Could you confirm whether I'm mistaken there, or was it something that we had resolved to do, but this report is a change to what we've resolved?
Isaac?
My understanding from the resolutions is that there was never a reference to running it independently. The way I set out the report in February, I believe, was that there was a third party agreement attached to that, and there were questions around making it clearer how the revenue would work and how we would retain some money from that. But it was always to go with the third party.
Okay, you finished, Councillor Strawn, and then Councillor Albone.
Yeah. What are the financial implications of this agreement? Are we getting any money from dealing with it, or are we paying out money? Further, I think we've got an issue of we should be knowing who we're actually going to be dealing with, because we knew it was Street Heroes. I don't see that there's any reason why councillors, at the very least, and if not the general public, should be aware of the people we're dealing with.
Are you able to share anything on that at the moment, Isaac? Or or
Can
not?
I share organisations' names?
Probably, well, probably not in that sense. I mean, maybe it's something you could follow up after the meeting. Conscious of obviously this, we're not in exempt session at the moment. Okay, is that satisfactory, Councillor Strawn, if Isaac emails you after the meeting or emails the committee?
I think we need to look into this as a general principle, because I think these things should be in the public domain. But I'll bow to officers' advice on this occasion, but I think it needs to be considered for future reference.
Okay, all right, thank you. Councillor Knight.
Thanks. So we seem to have lost our way a little bit, I think. So back at TCM in October last year, officers proposed holding the first event in November of last year. And I think members felt that was optimistic. Then it came back to TCM in February of this year, and the resolution was to hold the Big Eats events throughout 2023. Here we are in June, we've not had a single event, and the date that's proposed is September, when I think the summer's all but over. I mean, I welcome the work that officers have done. I don't think an event has to be on the scale of 12 traders. That feels quite a lot bigger than anything we've had. I think originally we had a partner, a good partner, but we had challenges in terms of involving local businesses and getting the events on a date that we wanted. And regardless of exactly what the minutes said, I think the general sense of travel was to have more control with this council. And I really don't see why we need a lead trader. We have a successful market every Saturday where we have a number of street traders, food traders, we have buskers. And to my mind, what we're looking to do is on a Thursday evening, have an event where we have a small number of food traders, which we could start quite small, 2 or 3 may be adequate, and a busker or something like that. And I really don't see how that's different to what we do as a matter of routine every Saturday. So I'm sort of a bit frustrated, I think, that it feels like we're trying to find a new third party, and we could find ourselves exactly in the place we were before, where we have ceded a lot of control. Somebody else is organising it, whereas to my mind, it feels like we have the skills within this council to organise this. And I don't really understand why here we are in June and we've still not had a single event. So I don't know if officers can reflect on any of those things, but is it an option to actually say, we're going to go and find a few food traders, 4 or 5, hopefully some of them are local, a busker or someone who can provide some music, and organise this ourselves without giving control to somebody else? And is it possible to actually do this before September? Because that feels very late in the year, which I know will be disappointing to residents who have not been pleased that Street Food Heroes has stopped.
Officers, have you got any sort of just follow-up points on that?
I referenced the third parties earlier because that's what was always highlighted in the reports. That's how I felt was the best way to proceed. They are very knowledgeable of the sector and have this particular third party organizer has a very well established event in a town not too far away from here. It was purely to do with the contacts that they have, and then also that they would be there physically on the square running the event, as opposed to officers and members of staff having to work overtime to be there. As part of the discussions that I've had with this current organizer, they would be happy to provide the bins, the tables, the benches, source the DJ, compile together all the documentation, and it does take quite a bit of time sometimes, especially when you're having to chase. It was to do with the time investment on officers' side and the overtime costs as to why it was felt as though a third-party organised event was a better way forwards.
Okay, Councillor North. Thank you, Isaac.
I would just like to say I agree with the comments made by our place shaping manager, that while on paper it may seem that we have the skills and it's possible to organise it ourselves, I think it would take up an inordinate amount of time, and it's better to have somebody who knows what they're doing, really, from experience, running it. And if that is an option that's available, then I feel that's the path that we should follow, rather than trying to organise it ourselves, which, for the reasons set out in this paper, has several disadvantages.
Okay, thank you, Councillor North. Councillor Strong.
having heard the place shaping manager's observations about what's included, would it be possible for him to share with the council as a whole outside this meeting exactly what is proposed? Because it actually sounds a lot more attractive than does this report makes it look.
Okay.
So I think it would be very helpful if we actually understood what was being offered, because certainly there's things being mentioned that I wasn't aware of as there, and I think it'd be very useful, and I think we should know what is actually going to be occurring, rather than just the general big eats idea, which would, I think, persist.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, I must say, I think, yeah, there's a number of different sort of components to this, aren't there? I mean, I think if we were looking at having a large event like 10 or 12 stores, then clearly it probably is helpful to have some external help. But I think originally that maybe wasn't what we were thinking of. But, you know, I guess to an extent we are where we are. Obviously, we've got 3 recommendations put out in front of us. We're going to have to make a decision on those. So I appreciate the input, Isaac. Thank you very much for the comments there. But we do need to make a decision on these recommendations. So are you happy for me to take them sort of one by one, and we'll vote on them that way? Is that probably the best way forward? And then we can get a bit more clarity, and then maybe Isaac can circulate things after the meeting, depending on how things go. Okay. So the first recommendation is officers to continue to engage with the selected third party and agree a date of the Thursday, the 14th September from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. Okay, so all those in favour? Oh, sorry, Councillor Albone, do you want to say something?
Yeah. The reason given that it can't be done until the 14th September is to give enough notice to traders, and we're talking about 10 to 12 stores, as being said. I'd be quite happy for this recommendation to be passed, but it would be good to explore if there's any possibility of getting something up and running before September. So, in addition to the September date.
Okay.
So I'd be interested to know if that's possible.
Okay, and in order to give our place shaping managers some help, are you talking about an event on this scale, or a more smaller scale event, perhaps, or
a smaller scale event if it can't be arranged for what the kind of scale that we're talking here.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. It's obviously not a recommendation necessarily, but is that something you could go away and look at potentially, Isaac? Do you think?
Yeah, I think definitely. I haven't had the conversation with the 2 organisers this morning. I think one of them sounds like they're very busy and they've got something personally coming up, and then the other one could perhaps be quite keen, and they're very local and have a lot of contacts. So yes.
Okay, so maybe we could amend the first bit then, amending it from the chair if that's possible. But so as well as agreeing the date for the 14th September, we could also add a further earlier event where practically possible, or something like that. So yeah, if that's Councillor Knight.
So I guess the point here is there's appetite to do something sooner, and doing something on that scale in September, so going from nothing to something really big, sounds quite risky, and people won't be aware of it. They won't necessarily know what the Big Eats is. Our marketing may not have been that good. The word of mouth may not be that good. So it feels to me like the sensible thing would be to try, and I know August is a holiday time, but to try to run a much smaller event with the same branding, with the same marketing, maybe in August. That's probably the earliest we can realistically do, but on a much smaller scale, and then build it up and get word of mouth. And I still wouldn't go to 12 traders in September, maybe 6 or 7, but that, to my mind, that would seem the pragmatic way forward, to try and do something much smaller in August.
Okay. Councillor Skilton.
Yeah, so this is just on the selected third party. How was this third party selected? This may have happened before I became a councillor, but as Councillor Strawn isn't aware of who they are, and we're not going to be told in the open session, I just wondered if we can talk about how they were selected, if there was a competitive element to it.
Isaac?
I've approached as many traders in the areas I've been able to find. There's not been any real order to the process. I initially started off approaching local traders that are involved in the market, etc. And then I started going wider than that, focusing on events that were already well established. And that is how I found this individual.
And we're not paying them to sort of run it on our behalf?
Yeah, so as part of the third party agreement, apologies, it's not included in this report, it was referenced in a previous one. There's an element of pay there that is still up for negotiation with them. And part of this report is as part of that second recommendation is that I would liaise with the chairman and deputy chairman of TCM to iron that third party agreement out.
Okay.
Karim, yeah, thank you.
Just to add as well to Isaac's remarks, place shaping manager remarks to Councillor Skilton and others, we did actually run a process as well, which was for a third party provider with several parties way back in just before, I think it was before February, if I'm not mistaken. And that process came up with some candidates and then eventually those fell by the wayside essentially. So we had adopted a kind of competitive process to begin with on this.
Yeah, does that help? Okay, good. Okay, right, so we've got a number of different sort of ideas here. I'm just trying to think how we could find a way forward, because I think Councillor Knight's made some very good points about, go on.
Yes, proposal. For the first bullet point, I propose that officers aim to run a smaller scale event as a pilot on a Thursday in August, and then potentially repeating that or growing it if appropriate in September, and that addresses the first point.
Great. Seconder for that? Yeah, Councillor Alburn. Great. Councillor Strawn.
Just a question on for that, for clarification. I thought we were going to go with the one on the 14th of September. That proposal actually negates that in the sense that it's suggesting we have the smaller one, and then if it doesn't work, we don't have the one on the 14th of September. Or I've misunderstood.
So having two events.
I'm trying to suggest that we try to be more ambitious and do something earlier, but not on the same scale, and treat that as a pilot, not in place of the one in September, but as a warm-up.
No difficulty with the warm-up. It was just the way you were phrasing it. It sounded as though if it didn't work, that you were going to drop the 14th of September one.
No, I agree. I think we've got some clarity now that essentially we would task officers to try and ideally do a smaller scale event in August, date TBC, and then still sticking to this larger 10-12 stalls event in 14th September. I think that's yeah, okay, I've understood it as well. Great. Okay, so can we vote on that then, please? Thank you. All those in favour? Yeah, that's everybody. That's unanimous. Thank you. Okay. Number 2, officers. Yeah, move it. Thank you. Officers engaging with the third party to sign the third party agreement, adjusting any terms as necessary in conjunction, consultation with the chairman and deputy chair TCM. All those in favour? Yep. Unanimous again. Thank you. Move it. And then the third one, officers providing regular updates to the chairman and deputy chairman TCM. Yep.
Hold on, I have one question.
Okay, I think that was unanimous again. So yeah.
I actually think we should all know what's going on, rather than just the chairman and deputy chairman. All right, consultation, but as councillors, we need to know what's going on. Otherwise, we'll be told something's happening by the members of the public, and we will look fools.
Okay, well, we didn't take a full vote on that one anyway. So I think what we can say is that we will officers will consult with the chairman and deputy chairman TCM and provide regular updates to all members of council. That'd be the right thing. Councillor Foster.
It might be one of those items that could be included as part of the clerk's update on Friday.
Okay.
So yeah, as a weekly communication.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point, and a number of residents have approached me about where did the street food heroes go, where did the street food festival go? So I think I feel confident if we can, at least with the 14th, I'll get to you in a minute, Councillor, 14th September event, we can now sort of reassure people when they approach saying we are looking at this. It's going to be a much bigger event, hopefully, as well, but come along for our soft launch, so to speak, in August. Councillor Knight.
I was just going to add, I think if there's any budgetary impact, particularly if we're taking any risk or cost that isn't budgeted, can that be highlighted as early as possible, please?
Yeah. Good. Okay. Brilliant. Okay. So yeah, we need to vote on the very last point, don't we? So officers consulting with the chairman and deputy chairman TCM and providing regular updates to all members. All those in favour? No, brilliant. That's not, yeah. Well, it's carried. It's not quite unanimous, but anyway, we'll move on. Good. Any last words from officers on that one? No. Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much. Okay, right. Next item on the agenda. This is actually, I think, it's sort of twofold. I think this piece, but it's primarily about Remembrance Sunday, but there is another element to it as well. Do you want to introduce Isaac, and then I can maybe make some comments?
Yeah, thank you. So whilst we had the Remembrance Sunday catch up with the representative of RBL, they did bring up the bench, hence why it's been included in the report. That the picture I've circulated is a hard copy. I have taken points prior to the meeting starting that I need to find out the dimensions of the bench, so I will go away and do that and circulate those dimensions to members. Thank you.
Yeah, and just by way of background for I know we've got two new members of the council with us tonight. Obviously something, Remembrance Sunday is a nationally observed event. Biggleswade Town Council work with the local British Legion branch to coordinate our commemorations locally. Around the market square, there's a parade involving lots of different organisations as well as the town council, and obviously a service of remembrance around the cross as well. And it's very, very well supported by the town. I mean, I think there's a good few thousand people. I never quite counted it, but very good. A few thousand people turn out on that Sunday to support and remember. So it's something the town feels very strongly about, and I think it's something obviously that we want to continue to support as well. So any comments on that in terms of the actual, I guess, the parade and event itself, plus then anything, I guess, on the bench? Councillor Strawn.
Yes, the question on the parade is as the usual question about police support or otherwise. Have officers approached the police at all to find out what, if any, support they will be giving to this event? Because I believe the police should be. It is a national event, and I believe that the police should actually be actively engaging with us in making sure it works, such as with the road closures and support there. I know it's Central Beds have got some power over that, but frankly, the police should be involved.
Yeah, I mean, the comment on that I'm aware of is I know we have had support from the police community support officers in previous years. I hope that can be the case, at least that again next year. But I know Isaac has had some early conversations. So I don't know if you're able to share anything at the moment.
I haven't spoken to the police yet. It was just a very early conversation that we had with RBL. But my colleague Alison has shared an action list with officers. I'll make sure that this is part of that action list for me to deliver.
Yeah, and I think there's also the road closures you'd already applied for them as well.
Yeah.
Great. Councillor Knight.
Thank you. Thank you for the report. So I support the recommendation. I think the only comment I really have, which you alluded to, is I think it would be very attractive if the bench was about the same length as the ones we have and not considerably shorter. And it sounds like the bench will be commissioned specifically for the town, so there may be some flexibility on that. So I would like to move the recommendation as set out, but stating that we would like the bench to be of a similar length to the one that we're removing, please.
Seems fine to me. Okay, so all those in favour of the proposal around the bench? Yep, that's unanimous. Thank you very much. Were there any other comments at all on Remembrance Sunday? This is very early stages. Clearly, got 6 months, 5-6 months to go. But any other questions at the moment? No. Okay, good. Right, we'll move on. Thank you very much. Market Square events. Over to you again, Isaac.
Nothing actually further to add on this one. I haven't heard back yet from either of the groups that I have reached out to in terms of the second paragraph in the report. Thanks.
Brilliant, thank you. I mean, just again, a little bit of background here. I've worked with Isaac on just coming up with some initial ideas of events that we can hold on maybe either Saturday or a Sunday within the market square. I'm aware that we don't have any obvious civic or national events coming up over the next year. We obviously had jubilees, coronations, etc. over the past year. not aware of anything that's been planned yet. So I think we will need to kind of create or come up with some of our own ideas, I think, in the next year. I had thought about one around engaging public services that we have locally. I think that would be good in terms of both their exposure and support from the public, and then something around heritage and vintage transport. The thing around the bus was something I enjoyed. I think, was it last year, back in October, when United Counties put on these free vintage buses between Bedford and Biggleswade, and it was quite well supported actually by a lot of people, but I still don't know how many people in the town sort of were aware of it. So maybe it's something we could do that and have the square closed off, something like that. But again, these are just all very high level ideas, nothing concrete, but I just think it's useful to make some explorations now into this, so we can try and get something lined up for the rest of the year. So Councillor Strawn, sorry.
Yes, I think it's an excellent idea in doing that, but from a finance perspective, I hope you will be looking at your budget and what you've got in the budget as chairman of TCM. And in particular, if you have got aims for the next year, I hope that you'll have some idea of costings by about November, so that they can be discussed and brought into the preset process and discussion. So yes, the more we can do, the better, but you've got to bear in mind your own budget.
Sure. No, thank you. And I think my ideas came from a very low cost perspective. So I think that was where I was coming from, but I will speak further with our place shaping manager in due course and see what we can come up with. Councillor Alban.
Yeah, the idea around vintage car show, there is, or at least there was, a Berkeley owners club that have on occasions had like meetups in the town square. So it'd be good perhaps to approach them to see if they might be involved. Yeah,
definitely. I think with the Biggleswade connection there, that could be in a LinkedIn on a particular day, definitely. And again, I wouldn't envisage that being very expensive to organise a bit of promotion maybe and organisation. So good. Okay, Councillor Strawn.
Just on that, I think you will see that there were one or two Barclay cars actually in the carnival procession, which was nice to see. So I think there might well be some enthusiasm to do that, if that's any indicator.
Yeah, brilliant. No, I saw them myself, and they were at the end of the parade on Saturday, so it was nice to see them. So that's good. Brilliant. Okay. Sorry, Councillor Foster.
Okay, so some good ideas here. I think obviously with yourself, Chairman, and the place shaping manager, it might also be worth maybe offering it up to others to see whether there are other ideas could be brought forward. Brainstorming, of course, a couple of other things. So I think that's a suggestion. I think in relation to the public and community service element, CBC tend to sort of try and coordinate some of these things from time to time as well. So maybe worth having a look at that, see whether there's other events that the CBC team have got organised coming over the coming months. And again, I think there's a cost element. Anything that doesn't incur an additional cost is obviously helpful. In terms of the augmented reality adventure, I have to say, when I first saw the words augmented reality adventure, I had to sort of have a bit of a think about what that actually meant. But when you read the report, it does seem like actually quite a fun idea. So I think for me, it definitely is worth exploring that. What I've seen in other towns, and probably bigger towns and maybe cities, is where they've also got other things like statues of foxes or snowmen or something around the town, so that you're encouraging people to go to those areas so that they take pictures. So that's perhaps would incur obviously an additional cost there. So I think this is a great starting point. But from my experience, actually having something where people go on a trail around the town and take pictures of. So maybe if we can do something that has, whether there's an image or something that links to it as well, but for me, definitely worth exploring that to try and highlight some of the areas around the town. So some good ideas there, and more ideas. If other members have got ideas, let's bring those forward as well.
No, I think that's absolutely right, Councillor Foster. I mean, I could very much see a QR or augmented reality of, the Great Fire of Biggleswade or some of our historical events or something. So there's definitely potential there. And obviously, if any other colleagues have got, practical or good ideas or contacts of ideas that like Councillor Albone suggested with the Berkeley cars and so feel free to email me and I'll funnel them through to Isaac in due course, and we can put them in our kind of planning sessions as well. So any ideas are welcome, and things that are themed and ideally fairly low cost as well, as we've established. Okay, good. So we've got the recommendations here. We've got 3 recommendations. I'll take them in turn. So we'll take a vote on whether members are happy that officers should pursue the community public services day idea and implement as soon as practically possible. All those in favour? Great, thank you. And then number 2, officers engaged with Shuttleworth Trust and potentially Stagecoach, but I think there's also United Counties as well. Yeah, to organise a day in the summer. I don't think it necessarily needs to be this summer. I guess we can look ahead for next year. It didn't say which summer, so we leave that one open. So just to engage with that. So all those in favour, please. Great, it's unanimous again. Thank you. And then finally, officers to gauge interest in the augmented reality adventure from residents via a survey, and town centre businesses present a report to the town council with an update. This would include a business plan if an interest was there. Councillor Knight.
Thank you. So I think the idea is interesting, as others have mentioned. I don't know how many responses we usually get to surveys, but I suspect it's quite modest. So I'm not sure it would be statistically relevant taking that approach. So I support moving forward because the costs seem quite low, but I'm just suggesting maybe the survey won't be that meaningful.
Okay. Go on then, Councillor Skilton, please.
Yeah, I just wondered if maybe we could get a demonstration of the augmented reality proposal if at some point before we agree to anything, because I've seen several sort of, and some of them are better than others, to be honest. And so it depends on the level of augmentation you get to your reality.
Well, this is a good question. Councillor Foster, do you have a question again as well? And I'll get Isaac to respond before we take a final vote on this bit.
I think I'm in agreement with Councillor Knight in terms of the statistics in relation to surveys. I think as members, we're almost as a representative of the numbers that are likely to come through. And that's not to say that we shouldn't be consulting residents, but I think to bear that in mind, that it's a, I think we need to be looking at exploring the option of it rather than doing it. But the idea seems great, and I'm in line with Councillor Skilton. Let's see what options you've got, see what ideas were. But I'm certainly not too keen on a survey for that purpose. It doesn't seem. That sounds as though we're not looking to consult, and that isn't what I'm saying. I'm just saying when in past experience you might get 20 or 30 people. It doesn't really give you a proper representation of the town, I don't think.
Okay, no, I think that's fair enough. I mean, would that? I think obviously that would probably make this recommendation a little bit easier if it's not a survey in there. So I think we're just keen on officers just exploring, what that might look like, I guess, in terms, and then taking into account Councillor Skilton's perfectly good question about the different types of augmented reality and QR codes and all the rest of it. So okay, so. All right, so we've got a slightly changed recommendation. Basically, I think we're just leaving it the same, but just taking out the survey element. So all those in favour of that recommendation? Great, it's unanimous again. Thank you very much. Great, thank you, colleagues. Okay. Right, on to CCTV. Karim, do you want to introduce this one? Or Isaac? Isaac, you can do it. Okay.
Thanks, Chairman. So officers have been informed this towards the end of last week by the interim head of place delivery that all conversations regarding S106 expenditure in Biggleswade will be turned off until the 10th of July. This is because the assistant director of place delivery has only been recently appointed, so they're sort of playing catch up with what their role is. A meeting has been organised for the 10th of July between the AD, the interim head of place delivery and BTC officers to discuss S106 in more detail. So The recommendation that's currently in the report, I'm suggesting it be amended, only because as a council we need to move quickly to make sure that BT costs don't go up further, and to prevent any further delays to the project. So the first recommendation should instead read for members to agree to expenditure of £1,500 from the council's capital reserves. The town clerk will then be in a position to sign the contract with BT for the upgrade of the existing analogue line to a new digital line. A final point, our current CCTV supplier has confirmed they will draw up an interim agreement for the period between when the 3 town centre cameras that are owned by us but currently managed by CBC, the period between when in early September, when CBC are no longer responsible for them, but we're waiting for those cameras to be installed. So they'll draw up a contract and send that through to us shortly.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you very much, Isaac. Okay, any questions? Councillor Strong.
What are the actual cost implications to the council of this? Because I'm just getting concerned that, again, there are reasons for us having to raise money internally rather than from other sources such as the Section 106 money. But I think it's essential that we get this done. We've been waiting for such a long time to do it, but I'm not entirely comfortable. And just for sake of clarification, you mentioned that they're going to turn off the Section 106 for a few weeks. Does that mean that other 106 monies that have been committed by Central Beds will not be coming, or we've got that? It's just any further requests that have been delayed?
Sorry.
No.
It's the latter. So the car parking S106 money isn't affected. And in terms of how this affects the council financially, obviously we already have a commitment of £58,009 relating to CCTV capital. Part of that included the capital cost relating to the installation of this BT link. However, since those costs were put to council, BT have increased the costs. So they're now, initially they were 2,775, they're now 4,275 as of the quote received on the 15th of May. So it's a £1,500 difference.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Knight.
Thank you. So the variance from the original budget seems relatively modest as a percentage, and I support the recommendations, which are essentially that we get the money from 106 if we can, but if not, we take a veerment from somewhere else and proceed. I think there are 2 other things that have changed since we procured these cameras. The first is that we've had conversations with Beds Police who have indicated they've had some challenges accessing our current cameras. So I'd like an update on where we are understanding that issue, if it is indeed a real issue, please. And then the second thing is Central Beds have actually replaced and upgraded their cameras. I believe there are some additional cameras. They now have a wireless system. Do you know the placement of their new cameras? And does that lead us to need to consider the locations that we'd previously agreed, again, in light of where Central Beds have put their new cameras, please?
So to answer the first question, as officers, we spoke with the police and with our current CCTV supplier and basically put them in touch with each other to have a conversation about how it looks for the police's side to access CCTV. I'm not sure how that conversation went, but I can follow that up after this meeting and give members an update. In terms of CBC's cameras, it's my understanding that they are only going to keep the 3 cameras that they currently have in place. From memory, this is the Shortmead Street roundabout, the mini roundabout on the High Street, and there's one other one that I can't recall the position of. Sorry?
I think there's one near Asda as well, but there are several new ones certainly. But
yeah, it might be the Church Street one. Yeah,
I think Church Street. Right. Yeah,
we did receive a table from the manager and CBC responsible for CCTV, and it did say that they were just going to be carrying on with those 3 cameras, and they know the strategy that we're going for as well, because we've been. Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, go on, Karim.
Just to add to what I just said, I mean, that's absolutely right. I mean, we have asked CBC for their camera locations in town with the view that obviously to combine everything for the bigger picture of the town, and they've said they're going to engage with us on that. I think just stepping back in terms of how we collaborate with the police, and in the last several months, we've been engaging with them quite closely on the various episodes of vandalism that we've had across the piece, and they have been very attentive to our footage and visiting in person as well. So hopefully that will continue, not the vandalism, their collaboration.
Thank you. Any more questions on CCTV? Okay, all right. We've got two proposals. Start again. Two proposals in front of us that we'll need to vote on. So, first one, I'll just run it through. Officers to continue to liaise with CBC to acquire Section 106 funding to cover the £1,500 of capital cost relating to the digital line. Regardless of whether this is successful, a further report will go to Council on the 27th of June with final recommendations to ensure BTC can accept the quote before further price increases and to avoid slippage. All those, sorry.
Border on that, I thought the place shaping manager had altered that recommendation because of the circumstances.
Yes, sorry, you're absolutely
so I
correct.
think that is not the one that needs to go forward.
Thank
I'm
you.
not sure what he said, but he's worded against that.
I was just about to ask you, Councillor Strong, what was your recollection of the recommendation? Go on.
Is to basically take out the bit that makes reference to S106. So
Yeah.
I can read it out again.
Thank you.
For members to agree to expenditure of £1,500 from the council's capital reserves, the town clerk will then be in a position to sign the contract with BT for the upgrade of the existing analogue line to a new digital line.
Okay. We're all happy with that? Okay, good. Okay. All right. So all those in favour then, please. There you go. Good, thank you. I think that was unanimous again. And then the second one, which I think is still correct, officers to continue to review the projected outturn of CCTV revenue. In the event of an overspend as projected with the above figures, officers will request environment for the accounting fees heading and a sufficient underspend in this heading as a contract with DCK has finished early. All those in favour? Yep. 2, 3, 4, 5 in favour, 6 in favour. There we go. Thank you. And any against? Abstentions? No. Okay. Right. There we go. Thank you very much. Thank you, colleagues, for helping with that one. It was quite a bit to sort out. Okay, so we're on to crime statistics now. I think they're all on the separate sheets. If anybody wants to have a look. The only recommendation here is to note, obviously, the statistics, but if anybody wants to make any comments, do let me know.
Observation, if I may, is
Yes,
that we've
Councillor
got a
Strong.
considerable amount of paperwork here. And I do wonder whether we might look to possibly simplify things in the future so that we don't take up quite as much paper. I think we had pie charts with similar information and other things that seem to work quite well. It just seems to me that we've got going now into so much depth. I think if the place shaping manager can liaise with our police liaison councillor over the formatting and the information that we need, I think that might helpfully simplify the process, because there's a lot of information in here. But I'm not sure what we actually gain by it to any great extent, apart from noting overall trends as to up or down.
No, I think that's right. Absolutely. I think, speaking from the chair, obviously this is extremely useful, having the crime statistics and so on. So I think I'm right in speaking on behalf of members. I think we find the figures useful, but it's probably maybe the presentation can be looked at in a slightly different way, just to reduce a bit of paper, or it can be formatted in a different way maybe. So yeah. Everybody happy with that? So, Councillor Foster, you're itching to say something.
I was going to say, you can't win, can you, Isaac? I mean, you
No,
put a report together, you give all the information, and then it's not right. Look, I'm not in disagreement. I think I probably had the same thoughts as a number of others. Oh my goodness, I think it's a paper I'm looking. So I think if it was on an A4, it may be smaller, but it might be a bit more usable. I know the information is probably on SharePoint, but let's somehow navigate it so that it's user friendly as well as. I don't need glasses to read this, which is great, but I think if somehow we can review the format to make it a bit more usable, I think that would work. But it's good to have the detail, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only thing I noticed generally, I think as far as I could see, was that, yes, I appreciate we're only halfway through 2023, but it does look like some of the crime is actually going down a little bit overall. But I suppose there's different ways you can cut it, but shouldn't be complacent nonetheless. But thank you for that. And I think you've heard comments from the committee on that one. Okay, we are, I think, back into public open session. Does our member of the public wish to say anything at all? No? Okay, is there anyone online, Funder? Okay, thank you very much. We're now going to move into exempt session. So if I can ask, move it.